again, is just one of 6 lawful grounds. So what are these 6 lawful grounds? The fact that consent is the top of the list does not make it the most important ground. It's not hierarchical. If you use consent, it has to be as easily capable of being withdrawn as given, as I just said. And we know that in certain circumstances, such as employment, consent is probably the last ground you would rely on because of the imbalance of power between the employer and the employee. Indeed, in an employment context, you'd probably look at using contract. There's also processing necessary for compliance with law or other laws. And we do see that in many instances where, in the employment context, you might need to take up background checks for an employee or potential employee. You might ask them to produce a disbarring service certificate. You might want to do anti-money laundering checks on customers. You don't need consent. You're complying with the law. Equally, vital interests. There will be some instances where, because you need to alert a patient to the withdrawal of a drug that they use, you don't need their consent to contact them. You are doing it to protect their vital interests. If you are a government agency, a local authority, a council, or some other body like a university with official authority or statutory duties, that is probably the leading lawful ground you would rely upon. It also says here, the processing is necessary for the performance of a public interest task. And we've seen that this was more used during lockdown than we had ever seen before, because regulators were saying it is in the public interest for you as an employer to do temperature testing or taking of temperature, to do track and test, track and trace. It's for the greater good, I guess, is the best phraseology. And then, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, last on the list but not least is processing is necessary for the legitimate interests pursued by the controller or by a third party.